There comes a moment in every life when the old patterns stop working, not loudly, not all at once. They fail quietly, like a leak behind the walls, unseen but relentless. Days begin to blur together. Weeks pass without distinction. You wake up tired, not from effort, but from repetition, and somewhere beneath the noise of routine, something inside you tightens. This is the moment most people try to outrun. They call it stress. They call it burnout. They call it bad timing or bad luck. But it is none of those things. It is the moment your habits are no longer aligned with the life you were meant to live. It is the call. And whether you answer it or not will decide who you become. You already know this, even if you've never put words to it. You feel it every time you repeat a behavior you swore you'd leave behind. Every time you scroll when you should be building. Every time you delay when you should be acting. Every time you choose comfort over growth and feel that subtle sting afterward, the one that doesn't hurt enough to stop you, but hurts enough to haunt you. That sting is awareness. That sting is the truth making itself known. Your life is not random. It is a direct reflection of your daily rituals. Habits are not small things. They are not harmless. They are the invisible architecture of your future, quietly shaping your identity while you sleep. Right now, they are either constructing the life you want or reinforcing the cage you've grown used to. Most people turn away here. They sense the weight of responsibility and instinctively look for escape. They tell themselves they'll change later, when things calm down, when motivation returns, when the timing feels right, but timing never feels right. And motivation is a visitor, not a resident. The truth is simpler and more uncomfortable. Your old habits feel safe because they are familiar, even when they are costing you everything. Fear does not care about your happiness. It cares about predictability. It will convince you that staying the same is safer than becoming something new, even if the same is slowly eroding your potential. And so the resistance appears, the inner voice that says you've tried before, that this is just who you are, that one more day doesn't matter. That voice is not logic. It is the old identity defending its territory, because here is the part few people understand. When you attempt to change your habits, you are not just changing actions. You are threatening an identity. And identities fight to survive. This is where most people fail, not because they lack willpower, but because they approach change from the wrong direction. They ask, what should I stop doing? When the real question is, who do I become if I don't? Because habits do not exist in isolation. They are loyal to the version of you that created them. You cannot expect habits built by one identity to serve another. Something deeper must shift first. This is where the real work begins, not with force, not with punishment, but with vision. You must see who you are becoming before your behavior will follow. Close your eyes and picture the version of you that you respect without hesitation. Not the fantasy version drenched in ego, but the grounded one, the one who keeps promises. The one who moves with quiet certainty. See how they wake up, not rushed, not reactive. See how they carry themselves, their posture, their stillness, their control. See how they handle discomfort without drama. How they act when no one is watching. How they respond instead of react. How they don't need motivation because their actions are an extension of who they are. This is not imagination for entertainment. This is instruction. Your mind does not follow discipline, it follows imagery. What you repeatedly visualize, you normalize. What you normalize, you eventually embody. The brain does not know the difference between a vividly imagined identity and a practiced one. This is why visualization works when nothing else does. You are not pretending. You are rehearsing your future self until your nervous system accepts it as real. Here is the rule that changes everything. You do not break habits. You replace them. The brain hates emptiness. Remove a behavior without installing a new one, and the old pattern will return, stronger and more desperate than before. Every habit exists to meet a need. Remove the habit without meeting the need, and the system will revolt. This is why people relapse. This is why they fall back into old routines. They created a void and expected discipline to fill it. Instead, every habit you want to remove must be replaced with an action that aligns with the person you are becoming. You don't just stop staying up late. You replace it with a ritual of rest that honors your future energy. You don't just stop consuming mindlessly. You replace it with deliberate creation. You don't just stop reacting emotionally. You replace reaction with pause, breath, and choice. Before every decision, you ask one question, and you ask it without negotiation. What would the version of me I respect most do next? And then you act, even when it feels awkward, even when it feels forced, especially when it feels inconvenient, because this is the moment of crossing. This is the moment where behavior stops being about comfort and starts being about alignment. The action may feel unnatural at first. That's a sign you're doing it right. New identities feel foreign before they feel familiar. There will be days you fail, not hypothetically, guaranteed. Old habits don't disappear quietly. They resist, they tempt, they whisper nostalgia. They remind you how easy things used to be. They offer you relief in moments of fatigue and stress. And when you give in, the old voice will try to turn a stumble into a surrender. It will say, "See, you're back where you started." But this is a lie. Failure is not proof of inability. It is proof that you are challenging something that mattered. Every time you return to your vision after falling, you weaken the grip of the old self. Habits don't die instantly. They starve, and starvation takes time. Then comes the most dangerous phase, the one no one warns you about. Motivation disappears, not temporarily, completely. There is no excitement, no fire, no emotional reward, only silence. This is the abyss. This is where spectators turn back, because here, nothing is carrying you. No dopamine, no applause, no visible progress, only identity remains. This is where the shift becomes permanent. In this moment, you do not act because it feels good. You act because this is who you are now. You act because you decided. You act because the old version of you no longer has authority. This is where habits stop being something you try to do and become something you simply do, not as a performance, as a fact. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, something changes. Discipline feels lighter. Choices feel cleaner. The behaviors that once required effort now happen automatically. And the habits you used to struggle against begin to feel strange, even uncomfortable, like wearing clothes that no longer fit your frame. You didn't overpower them. You outgrew them. This is transformation, not loud, not dramatic, but irreversible. And when you return to the world, you move differently. You don't announce your change. You don't seek validation. You carry a quiet authority that only comes from self-trust. You know something most never learn. Your life is not changed by motivation. It is changed by identity, by the images you hold of yourself and the habits that obey them. You are no longer waiting to become someone. You are acting as them, and reality has no choice but to follow. This is the hero's path. Not perfection, not ease, but commitment. You will fall, you will rise, and you will never again return to who you used to be. The new version of you is not built in comfort. It is forged in the dark through vision, replacement, and relentless becoming. Everything you've just heard is not meant to inspire you for a moment. It's meant to reframe how you see yourself, your habits, and the quiet forces shaping your life. The journey of the hero doesn't end with awareness. It begins with action. Vision without structure fades. Identity without implementation collapses back into the familiar. If this new version of you is going to survive, it needs a path, not vague intention, not motivation, a system. What follows are 5 deliberate steps to turn this understanding into lived reality. 5 actions that anchor the vision, replace the old patterns, and make the transformation permanent. Step 1 is where everything begins, and if this step is rushed, every other step will eventually collapse. This is not about habits yet. This is about identity, because habits do not exist on their own. They orbit the version of you that created them. If you attempt to change behavior without redefining who that behavior belongs to, you will feel like you are constantly swimming upstream, exhausted, frustrated, starting over again and again. You must understand this clearly. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your self-image. Your current habits are perfectly designed to maintain the identity you are living from right now. That means if you want different habits, you must first choose a different version of yourself to serve. This step requires honesty and stillness, no distraction, no noise. You sit with yourself and ask the questions most people avoid because the answers carry responsibility. Who am I becoming if I continue exactly as I am? Not next week, not next month, 5 years from now. What kind of life do these habits lead to? What kind of man or woman stands at the end of this road? You don't soften the truth. You don't dramatize it either. You observe it coldly, because clarity cuts deeper than emotion. Then you reverse the lens. You define the version of yourself you would respect without hesitation. Not a fantasy built on external validation, but an internal standard. This version of you does not need applause. They do not negotiate with weakness. They are calm under pressure. They move with intention. They are consistent, not intense. Disciplined, not obsessive. They do what needs to be done, whether anyone notices or not. You must see this version clearly. How they wake up, how they speak to themselves, how they handle discomfort, how they move through boredom, temptation, fatigue, and stress. Pay attention to the small things. Identity is built in the details, the way they carry their body, the pace of their decisions, the standards they refuse to lower, even when it would be easier. Now, and this is critical, you write this identity in the present tense. Not I want to be, not I am becoming, but I am. This is not delusion, this is instruction. Your nervous system responds to repetition and clarity, not future promises. When you declare identity in the present, your brain begins looking for evidence to support it. This is how behavior begins to shift without force. From this moment forward, every habit is filtered through this identity. You stop asking, do I feel like doing this? and start asking, does this align with who I am now? This reframes discipline entirely. You are no longer depriving yourself, you are expressing who you are. Certain behaviors begin to feel beneath you, not because they are evil, but because they belong to a version of you that no longer exists. This is also where guilt loses its power. You don't shame yourself for slipping. Shame belongs to the old identity. Correction belongs to the new one. When you fall short, you don't spiral, you adjust, you return, you reinforce the identity again and again through thought, language, and action. Step one is not something you do once. It is something you return to daily, especially when resistance appears. Resistance is not a sign you are failing. It is a sign the old identity is losing ground. The clearer your vision of who you are becoming, the weaker your old habits become without a fight. This is the foundation. Without it, habits feel heavy. With it, habits feel inevitable. You are not building discipline. You are choosing who gets to exist in your body, your mind, and your life from this point forward. Step two is where the war actually begins. Not the loud kind, not the dramatic kind. The quiet, internal kind where old patterns fight for survival. This step is about awareness without judgment and precision without emotion. Because the fastest way to lose momentum is to shame yourself for the very habits you're trying to outgrow. You start by observing your current behaviors with the mindset of an engineer, not a critic. No labels, no moral weight, just data. You look at your days and ask, what do I repeatedly do that pulls me away from the person I have chosen to be? When do these behaviors show up? Late at night, when you're bored, when you're stressed, when you feel unseen, when you feel overwhelmed. Patterns always have timing. Habits are rarely random. They arrive at predictable moments, triggered by predictable states. This is important because every habit exists for a reason, even the destructive ones. They soothe something. They numb something. They distract you from something. If you try to eliminate a habit without understanding what it provides, you create a vacuum. And nature hates a vacuum. The mind will rush to fill it, often with something worse or with the same habit intensified. So you ask a deeper question. What need does this behavior satisfy? Is it relief, control, comfort, stimulation, escape, validation? Once you identify the need, the habit loses its mystery. It is no longer a moral failure. It is a strategy, an outdated one, but a strategy nonetheless. Now comes the part most people skip, and it's why they fail. You do not remove the habit, you replace it. For every habit you want to leave behind, you design a deliberate substitute that meets the same need but aligns with your chosen identity. This replacement must be accessible, realistic, and immediate. If it requires too much effort, the old habit will win in moments of weakness. If the habit numbs stress, the replacement must discharge tension without destroying momentum. If the habit fills boredom, the replacement must stimulate without fragmenting focus. If the habit offers escape, the replacement must provide grounding rather than avoidance. Replacement is not about perfection, it is about compatibility. The brain will always choose the path of least resistance. Your job is to make the aligned habit easier than the destructive one. This is also where you prepare for relapse, not as failure, but as terrain. You assume there will be moments when the old habit reappears, When it does, you do not spiral, you do not abandon the system, you immediately return to the replacement. The faster the return, the weaker the old pattern becomes. Momentum is not built by never falling, it is built by shortening the time between falling and correcting. Over time, something powerful happens. The old habit begins to feel unnecessary, not forbidden, not tempting, just outdated, like using an old tool when better ones are available. This is how habits truly die, not through suppression, but through irrelevance. Step 2 teaches you mastery without violence. You are not at war with yourself. You are upgrading your systems. The old habits are not enemies. They are signals, and once you learn how to replace them with precision, your behavior begins to change without force, without drama, and without constant internal conflict. Step 3 is where this process stops being theoretical and starts becoming automatic. This is the step that turns intention into motion and identity into behavior. Without this step, even the clearest vision and the smartest replacements will eventually collapse under pressure. This step is about training the mind to lead the body before resistance has time to speak. You must understand something fundamental. The mind does not respond best to commands. It responds to images. Long before logic engages, your nervous system is already reacting to what it expects is about to happen. This is why habits feel automatic. Your brain has rehearsed them thousands of times in advance. Step 3 is about taking control of that rehearsal. Before you act, especially when the action feels uncomfortable, you pause, not for minutes, not for meditation, for seconds, just long enough to visualize your ideal self performing the action you're about to take. You see it clearly, the posture, the breath, the calm certainty, the absence of hesitation. You watch yourself begin the task, move through it, and finish it with control. This is not hype. This is not fantasy. This is neural priming. When you visualize first, you remove surprise from the system. The action no longer feels foreign. Your nervous system recognizes it as familiar before your body even moves. Resistance thrives on uncertainty. Visualization eliminates it. Most people wait until they feel ready to act. That moment rarely comes. Readiness is a byproduct of familiarity, not courage. Visualization creates familiarity instantly. It tells your brain this is normal, this is expected, this is who we are now. This step becomes especially powerful during moments of temptation. When the old habit calls, you do not argue with it, you do not suppress it, you visualize your new self, choosing the replacement behavior instead. You see the decision being made cleanly, calmly, without internal debate. The image interrupts the automatic loop and inserts a new response. Over time, this practice retrains your default reactions. You stop reacting from impulse and start responding from identity. The pause becomes instinctive. The image appears without effort. The action follows naturally. Visualization also protects you during low-energy states. When motivation is absent and discipline feels heavy, imagery carries you forward. You don't need emotional fuel when the path already feels known. You simply walk it. This is how habits stop feeling forced. This is how consistency becomes quiet. You are no longer pushing yourself uphill. You are following a path your mind has already walked. Step 3 turns discipline into embodiment. You are not trying to change. You are rehearsing who you already are until the rehearsal becomes reality. Step 4 is where the new identity is stabilized. Without this step, Even powerful changes remain fragile, dependent on mood, energy, and circumstance. This is where structure replaces motivation and where the hero stops relying on emotion to stay aligned. Step 4 is about anchors, non-negotiable behaviors that hold your identity in place when everything else is uncertain. You begin by accepting a hard truth. You cannot rely on how you feel to determine how you live. Feelings are weather. They change hourly. Identity requires gravity. Anchors provide that gravity. Anchors are not ambitious goals or overwhelming routines. They are small, decisive actions that reinforce who you are every single day. They happen regardless of sleep quality, stress level, or external chaos. They are simple enough to execute even on your worst days, but meaningful enough to signal control and self-respect. Choose 2 or 3, no more. Too many, and they lose power. An anchor might be the way you begin your morning, a ritual that tells your mind and body, I am awake, I am in control. Today has structure. It might be a physical practice that grounds you in your body and reminds you that strength is built through consistency, not intensity. It might be a closing ritual at night that restores order, reflection, and intention before sleep. What matters is not what the anchors are, it's what they represent. They are proof. Proof that you are who you say you are, even when no one is watching. When everything else slips, anchors remain. When motivation disappears, anchors still happen. When a day goes badly, anchors prevent the spiral. They stop one mistake from becoming a lost week. This step also teaches emotional discipline. You stop asking, do I feel like it? Because anchors are not negotiable. Negotiation is the door through which old habits return. Anchors close that door. Over time, something shifts. These actions stop feeling like discipline and start feeling like identity maintenance. Skipping them feels wrong, not because of guilt, but because it breaks alignment. You begin to trust yourself again, and self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Anchors also create momentum. Once the first anchor is completed, the rest of the day feels lighter. Order creates order. Discipline begets discipline. You are no longer building your day from chaos. You are building it from certainty. Step 4 ensures that the version of you are becoming is not fragile. It roots that identity into daily reality so deeply that even bad days cannot uproot it. This is how the new self stops being temporary and starts becoming permanent. Step 5 is what makes the transformation permanent. Without this step, progress becomes fragile and temporary, rising and falling with mood, circumstance, or self-judgment. Step 5 is not about perfection, it is about loyalty to the identity you have chosen. This is where most people either lock in their evolution or quietly drift back to who they used to be. You must release the idea that change looks like never failing. That belief destroys more progress than laziness ever could. The real measure of growth is not how often you fall, but how quickly you return. Recovery speed is the metric that matters. This step trains you to correct without collapsing and to refine without self-betrayal. Each day you close with reflection, not rumination. You ask simple, grounding questions. Did I act like the person I am becoming today? Where did I hold the line? Where did I hesitate but recover? Where did I slip? And how fast did I return? This keeps the focus on alignment, not outcome. You are tracking identity, not streaks. Streaks breed fear of failure. Fear creates avoidance. Identity creates resilience. When your focus is alignment, a broken streak is irrelevant. What matters is whether you recommit immediately or let the old self reclaim ground. This step also eliminates shame. Shame belongs to the identity you left behind. Correction belongs to the one you are building. When you miss a habit or fall into an old pattern, you do not punish yourself. You correct course. You reinforce the vision. You take the next aligned action as soon as possible. This keeps momentum alive. Over time, something subtle but powerful happens. You begin to trust yourself again. You no longer fear slipping because you know you will return. That trust removes anxiety from discipline. It allows consistency to be calm instead of tense. Step 5 also sharpens discernment. You become aware of patterns before they fully take hold. You recognize early signs of drift, fatigue, avoidance, emotional reactivity, and respond with adjustment rather than collapse. This awareness turns maintenance into a skill instead of a struggle. Eventually, habits stabilize. They stop feeling like effort and start feeling like expression. The old behaviors lose emotional charge. They no longer feel tempting, just irrelevant. You don't fight them. You simply don't return to them. This step completes the journey. You are no longer trying to change your life. You are maintaining an identity that makes regression incompatible. This is how transformation lasts, not through force, but through fidelity to who you have chosen to be. And once this loyalty is established, the cycle continues upward. The identity strengthens, the habits refine, and the version of you that once struggled to begin now cannot imagine going back. This is where the journey settles. Not in applause, not in a sudden finish line, but in quiet certainty. You now understand that change was never about fighting yourself. It was about choosing who you would no longer be loyal to. The old habits weren't defeated by force. They were replaced, outgrown, and made irrelevant by a stronger identity. From here on, the work is simple, but not easy. You visualize the standard, you act in alignment, you correct quickly, you return without drama. Day by day, the distance between who you were and who you are becoming widens until the bridge back collapses entirely. Remember this, you are not waiting for motivation. You are not chasing a feeling. You are embodying a decision. The version of you that once hesitated, delayed, and compromised no longer gets a vote. This is how habits become destiny. This is how discipline becomes natural. This is how the hero stops searching and starts living. Walk forward with intention. Maintain the standard. And when the darkness returns, as it always does, stand steady. You've already been here, and you already know who you are.